Hey guys, we are coming up on the anniversary of the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. So I thought we'd just talk about it a little bit and look over the song lyrics to the song by Gordon Lightfoot, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I was out with some girlfriends and that song came on and they were all saying how much they hate the song. And I thought that was just terrible. and they said, it's a song about an ancient shipwreck. And I just thought, well, they don't know the whole story. So anyway, here it is. The thing with the Edmund Fitzgerald, I guess some people think it's ancient, like from the 1800s. But the Edmund Fitzgerald sank November 10th of 1975. So it was really pretty recent history. Here's a picture of it. It was a ship that carried iron ore, and they'd take the iron ore and roll it into like balls that were almost like marbles so that they could shovel it in, and it would carry a lot of iron ore. And it generally went, I don't know, but this time it was going from Superior. Well, okay, they sail around the Great Lakes, first of all. And the Great Lakes are Ontario, Erie, Huron, Michigan, and Superior. And on the day of the sinking, the Edmund Fitzgerald was leaving Superior and going through Lake Superior. It was supposed to come through the Sault Ste. Marie here, the Sioux Locks, come down through Lake Huron, and just south of Detroit is Zug Island, which is near River Rouge, and it was going to stop there to drop off the iron ore, and then I think keep going on to Cleveland to be worked on. So when it left from Superior, it was a beautiful day. It was a nice day, but there was a storm forecast, and the captain, McSorley, had been through a lot of storms. And I mean, this ship was built in 1950s, and the captain, I think he'd been a captain since the 30s, so he was very experienced, and he just thought he could do it. There was another ship called the Anderson, the Arthur Anderson, and they were kind of sailing together-ish, along there. And there was a third ship that left that day that, because of the weather, decided to take a route that went closer to the coast of Canada to keep it kind of in more safe harbor. But it was longer. It would take longer. So they take off and they're heading that way. So at that point, we could read some of the lyrics to the Gordon Lightfoot song. The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot. These are the lyrics. The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. The Lake Superior, I think its Native American name is Gitchagumi. With a load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. Okay, so according to this, they were carrying 26,000 tons. That good ship and true was a bone to be chewed when the gales of November came early. So my understanding is that the ship had originally been rated for a lot less weight, but because it kept carrying more and carrying more and carrying more and doing it successfully, it kept being re-rated for more weight. So it was carrying more weight than it ever had before, I think. And when it took off from Superior, the ship was the pride of the American side, coming back from some mill in Wisconsin. As the big freighters go, it was bigger than most, with a crew and a good captain well seasoned. Concluding some terms with a couple of steel firms when they left fully loaded for Cleveland, Then later that night, when the ship's bell rang, could it be the north wind they'd been feeling? So they started feeling it that night, according to that. I can't remember if I said this because I recorded this once, but my microphone wasn't turned on, so I'm kind of forgetting. But it was built by an insurance company, and it was either the owner or the president of the company was named Edmund Fitzgerald. So the ship was named after him. Just kind of interesting factors. The wind in the wires made a tattletale sound when the wave broke over the railing, and every man knew, as the captain did too, 'twas the witch of November come stealing. The dawn came late, and the breakfast had to wait when the gales of November came slashing. When afternoon came, it was freezing rain and the face of a hurricane west wind. Yeah, apparently, normally storms would come from the north. And so that's why, like, the other ship was hanging out here, because then you have some protection. But this was an unusual storm in that it came from the west, going west-east. So this lake is big. I mean, you look at how big that is. So it picked up momentum, and the winds got bigger and the waves got bigger as it moved across this way. And the Edmund Fitzgerald is coming down this way. So it starts hitting it on the side of the ship. Here's another map. Let's see. So it's coming down Lake Superior. It's trying to get into this Whitefish Bay, because once you're in the bay, you're protected. But they were out here. Where are we? Okay. The dawn came late, and the breakfast had to wait when the gales of November came slashing. Did I read that? When afternoon came, it was freezing rain in the face of a hurricane west wind. Sorry, I read that twice. When supper time came, the old cook came on deck, saying, "Fellas, it's too rough to feed ya." At 7 p.m., a main hatchway caved in. He said, "Fellas, it's been good to know ya." And apparently the captain of the Edmund Fitzgerald had radioed either the Coast Guard or the other ship, I don't remember, and had said, "We were taking on water and we're listing," which means, they're kind of tilting. So, he knew trouble. And I think at the end of that call, he thought he'd clicked off, but he hadn't, and they could hear him yell, tell all the men to stay off the deck. So I think that there was enough water coming on the deck, he was afraid people would get washed off. So then the last communication he made, he said something like, "We're holding our own." And that was the last anyone heard from the Edmund Fitzgerald. The captain wired in. He had water coming in, and the good ship and crew was in peril. And later that night, when his lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. So the ship behind him could see the lights of the Fitzgerald, could see, I think, the lights of one of these. There was a lighthouse along here or something, and there was another ship kind of hiding out, I think, that they could see those lights. So they knew they lost communication during the waves. The waves got so strong they lost communication, but they also lost sight of everything. But after 10 minutes, they could start seeing all the lights again, but the Edmund Fitzgerald was gone. So within a 10-minute period, they're pretty sure the whole ship sunk, and it was just gone. Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? The searchers all say they'd have made Whitefish Bay if they'd put 15 more miles behind her. They may have split up, or they might have capsized. They may have broke deep and took water. And all that remains is the faces and names of the wives and the sons and the daughters. Yeah, it's unclear what made it sink. There's talk that they tried to take a little harbor and a shoal, and maybe it had actually hit ground. I don't know about that. Or it took on water, like on, maybe back here it took on water and it started to go like that, and those little balls of iron ore rolled, just causing it to kind of upend with too much weight. And that maybe all the latches weren't sealed off and it took on water that way. But I just don't think it's really known exactly what happened. What we do know is it was a bad storm and they were carrying a lot of weight. All right, where were we? We're at the daughters. Okay. Lake Huron rolls, Superior sings in the rooms of her ice water mansion. Old Michigan stearns like a young man's dreams. The islands and bays are for sportsmen. Apparently, Gordon Lightfoot was a big boater. He liked to be a sportsman in the lakes. And further below, Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send her, and the iron boats go, as the mariners all know, with the gales of November remembered. In a musty old hall in Detroit they prayed, in the Maritime Sailors' Cathedral. The church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald. So in Detroit, there's a maritime cathedral. I'm actually not sure where that is, but anyway. And so they ring the bell 29 times every year on the anniversary in remembrance of the men who died on the Edmund Fitzgerald. But the year that Gordon Lightfoot died last year, they rang it 30 times in remembrance of Gordon Lightfoot. The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. Superior, they said, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early. So that's the story of the Edmund Fitzgerald. They have done some dives on her, and she sunk 17 miles, I think, outside of Whitefish Point. So pretty close to getting into the harbor, but just couldn't make it there. And they dove down, and I believe it's broken in half. So whether that happened at the bottom or before, I guess, I don't know. They pulled the bell off of her and put it here at the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum, so you can go see that. And they made a new bell, and they put the names of all the men who died, all 29 men, and they put it on her. So now it's considered, a gravesite, so they don't let people dive on it anymore. The family didn't want that. But everywhere you are in Michigan and probably any other places around here, you go to gift shops and they have Edmund Fitzgerald, plates and sweatshirts and shot glasses. And so it's, very well known in this area, but I think outside of here, maybe not so much, except for the Gordon Lightfoot song that was a #1 hit. I don't know if it was #1. It was #1 in Michigan. You would definitely hear it. But if you're not familiar with that song, look it up. It's a good one. Just last spring, we took a trip to Georgian Bay, which is off of Lake Huron. And there's a national park there called, I want to say, Phantom 5. And you can go see on these glass bottom boats, but really you kind of just look over the edge and they take you over the shipwrecks, and the water is so crystal clear that you can see them perfectly. They're not very deep. So you can see some shipwrecks, which led me to start looking up how many shipwrecks there are in the Great Lakes, and there are a lot. Like when I tried to look up Lake Superior, it said, I saw some accounts saying 500, some saying more or less. I don't know. I'm sure there must be exact numbers on these things. But, yeah, it's kind of interesting. So, anyway, on November 10th, you can play the song The Record with the Edmund Fitzgerald and know what it's all about. There are plenty of YouTube videos and things that you can look up with really good historical information. You can watch videos of when they pull the bell out, and there are photos of Edmund Fitzgerald. So I'm sure I got a lot of things wrong, but hopefully it was a little bit relaxing and a little bit educational.